Alright, so for the first part of this, do you just want to play Uno and make that our skip for the episode?
I don't have Uno, so buzz off.
Oh, you don't have it? No, me neither.
To call the Uno archetype experimental would be an understatement. We've talked about anime garbage and pack filler on the show plenty of times, but few things have barely come close to the absurdity of Uno's playstyle. With ridiculous effects, unclear rulings, and not a single wave of support since the archetype's early release in 1971, even after being used by one of the anime protagonists, it's an incredibly interesting deck to behold and analyze. Let's find out why playing against these Unos makes you go Uno. We're kicking it off with their fairly strange monster lineup, a group of 40 cards all at once. The Uno numbers all have miserably low stats. I mean, none of them go above a single digit, which also represents their level, and that's honestly embarrassing even for the time. You thought Spirit of the Mountain was bad? How about Uno Blue 9? A level 9 with 9 attack and defense? Still might be Dynamorphia if the grind game goes on long enough though. They're all fish type and go by water, fire, earth and wind attributes, all sharing the simple effect which had to be printed in the rulebook since they didn't know how to put text on cards back in the day. You can only summon this monster if you control no cards. If there is an Uno monster on the field with the same level or attribute as this card, you can special summon this card to your field by using that monster as material. You can only special summon one Uno monster per turn. Being the only non-Xyz monsters in the game with the ability to be overlaid atop of something is pretty neat, but it comes at a drastic cost of their combo potential. The once per turn summon limit is obnoxious, and you can essentially only control one Uno monster, which doesn't really have any practical purpose, unless you're in the Uno mirror match. See, as the first ever archetype in the game, it was logical to expect both players would be running Uno cards, which is why the effect lets you use the opponent's monster to summon your own. This creates an interesting sub-meta in which instead of using only Uno monsters of a single attribute, you mix and match them around to minimize the opponent's chance of stealing them. It's not like you'll be using them for anything particularly strong, but therein lies the next lines of the text present in all Uno monsters. Skip your draw phase. You cannot play non-Uno cards. There is no hand size limit to either player. During the end phase, if you did not summon an Uno monster this turn, excavate cards from the top of your deck until you excavate an Uno monster you can special summon with its effect, then overlay to top an Uno monster you control, also add the rest of the cards to your hand. I guess this is technically consistency. It's the slowest and most hostile form of it I've seen in my life, but it does help you get to the monsters you can actually play, at the cost of preventing you from doing literally anything else. It's a shame, you know, I was really hoping my Slifer OTK would go off with that hand size limit removal. So you may be asking what the point of all this is, as there seems to be no payoff to all this self-sabotage, but there we have the last part of the effect. If you don't shout Uno before playing the second to last card in your hand, skip your next turn. If this is the only card you control and you have no cards in your hand, you win the duel. The unconventional shouting mechanic acted as a trade-away for the simple win condition, forcing players to be extremely annoying for a moment in order to announce they're about to win if you don't get your shit together. The mechanic was brought back years later for the Zexal Shout trio, which was promptly made illegal due to acts of violence during tournaments because nobody wants to hear the words "Katto bingo da ore" in the middle of a duel. The win condition here is pretty wacky. It effectively turns a game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Into a game of Crazy Eights, but again preventing you from playing anything else. It worked fine and well enough at the time of the deck's release, but after all these years it's way too fragile to pull off on any consistent basis. When it comes to the ratios of Uno monsters, depending on the matchup, you either want to make it a single color which at least enables your plays, or vary it up in case you find yourself against a fellow Uno enthusiast. Also, the artwork is really unimaginative and samey, to the point where Uno 6 and 9 are literally the same design flipped upside down. Someone must have been crunching for time. But how would you go about achieving that win condition faster? After all, it's one monster per turn, so you better make it count. So here we have the Uno back row starting with Uno Skip. It's a normal spell that says, if you control an Uno monster of the same color as this card, skip your opponent's next turn. In any other archetype, this would be the most busted, banned, forbidden, burned to the ground and erased shit in existence. In Uno, it's a decent support card. It effectively gives you an extra stack on your Uno pile, be it from your hand or the end phase excavate. With a 3 numbers, 2 skips opening hand, it's possible to pull off an elusive FTK, but that's an outcome too infrequent to rely on, and besides, the excitement from impending victory tends to make you forget to shout Uno when the time comes. Still, you take what you can get, and besides, skipping the opponent's turn eventually lets you swing for double digits of damage. Run 3. Their next spell card is Uno Draw, which along with the usual color limitation, makes the opponent draw 2 cards. This is one of the best cards ever if you love to partake in shooting yourself in the foot, cause you know what we need? A worse gift of greed. To be fair, it's meant to be played in a mirror match, and it's pretty handy at slowing down Infernity, but none of that makes it more than a side card. It's an unfortunate side effect of the deck's weird playstyle, so feel free to ignore it. Uno Reverse is a trap card which says, if you control an Uno monster of the same color, reverse the play order. Rulings are still up in the air about what the hell this is supposed to mean, as the last judge that was inquired about it simply left the room without answering, seeming unusually upset. Until we figure it out, a fun way to interpret this effect is that the phases go backwards, starting with the end phase and finishing with the draw phase. If it wasn't for the archetype's terrible limitations in place, this would be a great deck for chess archfiends, as you wouldn't have to pay their maintenance costs so early.
Congratulations!
But aside from that, this doesn't really benefit the Uno game plan at all, so let's just hope we can one day get to the bottom of what the card actually does. But we cannot forget their iconic Xyz monsters, of which the first is Uno Wild. It's a psychic type Xyz monster with a question mark attribute and level, and 10 attack and defense, and along with the rest of the Uno monster text, its effect says, you can Xyz summon this card by using one Uno monster you control as material. If you do, declare any attribute and level, this card becomes that attribute and level. Yes, the Xyz gets a level. Fuck you, we're way too deep in this shit to start making sense now. Wild is easily the best card in the archetype, being able to get you out of a pinch, debrick your hand, being a large beater, as well as enabling great synergy with something for sure. Like, whatchamacallit. There's a card where, it's great to have 3 copies of it on backup in your extra deck at all times. And the final Uno card is their other Xyz monster, Uno Wild Draw. Along with sharing the exact same effect as Wild, it also makes the opponent draw 4 cards on summon. The same thing I said for Uno Draw applies here. Strictly worse unless it's the mirror match or Infernities. It doesn't hurt to run it as it's an extra deck monster though. Do you wanna see how long this effect would actually be? Now let's grade this colorful bunch of cards on a scale from Uno to 5-0. Consistency. Uno. Power. Uno. Recovery. Uno. Protection. Uno. Versatility. Uno! Here's a picture of a general deck list you can go buy in the modern game. And here's a picture of this fucked up Frieza I got from eBay. What can be said about Uno? It's a deck of skill, intrigue, drama and suspense. Each duel is sure to leave you on the edge of your seat. As your hand gets thinner with every turn, who knows what can happen next? Dare you to brave the treacherous waters of the Uno mirror match? Perish the thought, you may say, but many have tried and came back changed. For the better or worse? That, my friend, is for you to find out. And if you ain't know, now Uno. Good luck, fellas.
So I've been trying to live a more natural lifestyle and, live off the land. Feed myself from the fruits of the earth. And so I've been trying to eat things that I find on the floor. For example, this pill that you see here. Now, nothing that you find in the earth or on the earth, or in this case in an alleyway, can hurt you. So I'm just going to pop this in my mouth, and I'm going to have a tasty treat that cannot be beat. Oh man, that was not Prozac.